It's a man's world, but it means nothing unless there's a woman. Good morning, one and all, and welcome to Future Man, a very special live podcast exploring mental health and mentoring relating to men. My name is Glenn. I'm the co-host of this podcast, and with me here today we've got Danny. Danny, say hi.
Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's lovely, lovely Saturday morning.
Yeah, I want to say that it's quite a rare occasion where you get a group of men, and especially on a panel like this. Danny and myself, we're good friends. Actually, we've been good friends for a very long time, from boys to men. Danny, why don't you just share a little bit of our own journey?
Well, in short, I actually met Glenn in a guitar shop, and we are both guitar players. And I think I bought a few guitars from him, and then we lost touch. But then we caught up again at a mentoring SG event, and I was so happy because seeing what he's doing with Architects of Life. Obviously, I'm involved with Timber Group from the
Yeah.
start, and also with Team Rise, and then we are working closely together. I think to help the ex-offenders, and yeah, very happy to be part of this. Also, something of a passion topic about men's mental health. I think it's really very important that we talk more about it, and also see if we can all collectively help each other and help society, and help the men actually in our
Yeah.
society.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Yeah, it's been more than 30 over years. But when
30
I
years.
when I caught back up with you and heard what you were doing, business aside and work aside, our passions regarding, social needs is there. I'm the chairman of Mentoring SG. It's a national movement where we encourage and hope to develop a culture of mentoring. And later on, we'll discuss a bit about that. Danny, of course, is really deeply passionate about men's mental health. And that's why we're here today. Today, we've got a good sized crowd. We're also on live stream. So, those of us who have your Facebook pages and all that, do us a favor, copy the link of the live stream that is right now live, is going on in real time, and then share it on your pages. That will really help to increase our viewership. But, just here on an inside Zoom, we've got a good size number of people. Just one quick look here. Danny, there seems to be more ladies than guys. There seems to be
I
more.
think I think the I think the guys are just waking up and getting in. Don't worry. Give them another minute. They're having a coffee and enjoying the morning. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of men's group that I personally also invited. Bros without woes. What a name. They're here
Yeah.
too, and Kate is here, and also Gus is here, and some of my friends from the circle is here, and I think it's so good that they're supporting us. And I think if you could do me a favor and do us a favor, those guys that are involved with work involving men's mental health, please copy and paste and tell us more about your organization in the chat. I think it's also good for us to network a little bit, get to know each other a little bit, and I think it's a collective effort. So
Okay. Let me maybe just do some quick opening because we've got other panelists and our guest of honor to introduce as well. Just a quick disclaimer: all content shared in this podcast is based solely from the respective speakers' perspectives and opinions. In a way, we don't represent anybody when we share our own thoughts. So it should not be relied upon as representational data or expert advice of any kind. Yeah. So hope that we all honor this. And today's podcast outline, next we're going to introduce our fellow panelists and of course our guest of honor, Senior Parliamentary Secretary Eric Chua. He's already here, he's just waiting patiently. But we do want to launch into our discussion on two key topics, one on mental health relating to men, and the other one, mentoring, and how does that relate to men. Okay. At this point in time, Danny, shall we introduce our fellow panelists?
please.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Keith Low. He's the co-founder of a media arts company, Avant-Garde. And I want to say that he's a real mentoring advocate. I mean, he has volunteered at a boys' home, some ex-offenders, together with my work at Architects of Life. And get this, he's a father of four. Yeah, young chap, father of four. I mean, he does our nation proud in his own ways, national service. Please welcome Keith Low.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Glenn, for having me this morning. And hello to you also, Danny. Really nice to be connecting with all of you this morning. As Glenn introduced, I am really ridiculously passionate about mentoring, especially, as a father of four, I'm mentoring at home, I'm mentoring at work, and mentoring outside work also. I myself am a product of being mentored. And one of my mentor that I really look up to is none other than Glenn himself. He's opened doors for me, coached me, connected me to his network, given me resources. And I see the benefit and advantages of being mentored. In fact, a Harvard Business Review reported in 2020, 76% of working professionals desire for a mentor at work. But unfortunately, only 54% managed to find a mentor at work, right? So I think while we see the benefit of mentoring, the benefits of mentoring, the gap between us looking for a mentor is still quite big. So that's where I and my team and fellow volunteers would really like to advocate more for mentor. So the question I ask myself is this: when my children grow up and they start working, would I desire for them to have a mentor? And I think undoubtedly the answer is yes. I would like them to have a mentor they can look up to, right? If we desire for our children to have mentors when they go out to work or when they start adulting, then there need to be a group of mentors, right? And that is where I think we all can volunteer. We need not be there yet, but I think we can start with where we are. All right. So I'm looking forward to this dialogue and this entire session this morning. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, thank you, Keith. Danny, at this point of time, would you like to do us the pleasure of introducing our guest of honor?
Of course. It's none other than SBS Eric Chua, and I was just joking that I saw him perform a song. Maybe next time we will jam one song together, and it was really fun watching that. Really fun. And so yes, please welcome SBS Eric Chua.
Thanks very much, Danny, and thanks very much, Glenn, for having me today. And hi to Keith and everyone in the room as well. First of all, I think a few thanks needs to go out. I think thanks to everyone for joining bright and early Saturday morning. I think secondly, thanks to Danny and Glenn for inviting me for what is a very important topic to talk about as well. It's been something that's been very close to my heart, and but something that perhaps we don't quite talk about right here in Singapore. And I think if you allow me, because last night, I must confess, last night when I sat down to start thinking about, okay, what will I talk about today? I mean, the list just went on and on. So if you could just afford me, a couple of minutes to just talk about, some of the things that really occupy my mind with regards to this topic. So with regards to, say, what makes a man today, right? Or what does it mean to be masculine? What does it mean to be macho? Are you man enough? What are we essentially talking about? I think it's about a set of behavior, how we appear, how we dress, our appearance, language that we use, and many other presentations, actually the fixed norms of which really evolve over time. And I feel like this is such a crucial conversation in Singapore to have, because if you remember a few years ago, we had conversations about women's development in Singapore, but we never really had a lot of traction or momentum around a similar men's conversation, right? And I think that's where kind of like a missed opportunity that we had when we were talking about the women's conversations. And I say that for a few reasons, and these are the three main reasons why I say so. First of all, I think there's a disjoint today. There's a disjoint between what we think is masculine in our minds versus what society sets as a standard, of what is masculine. So what do I mean? For instance, oftentimes society expects men to be brave, to be courageous. You cannot cry, all right? And then you don't expect men to ask for directions. That one I think we're all guilty of, right? Yeah. And you don't expect men to really show your weaker side, right? You don't say when you meet with a traumatic incident in life, say a loved one passed away. You're not expected to cry. You're not expected to reach out to your loved ones even for help. And oftentimes, our expression of our emotions is in the forms of emotions like anger, like agitation, because that kind of shows strength. But is that really the way to go? I think I question these norms, and I hope that we can have conversations so that we can shift these norms along. So that's number one, there's a disjoint. Number two, I feel that, our good friends in Bollywood, Hollywood, so all our makers of consumerism, pop culture, has really done a wonderful job of objectifying, commodifying the male body. So what does it mean for us, mere mortals? We're not talking about your Tom Cruise and whatever not in Hollywood. But for us mere mortals, it also has a very real impact. Because what about unrealistic body image? Every time I hit the gym, because my schedule is quite trying, and I hit the gym at close to midnight, I'm almost never alone. 10 times I go to the gym at midnight, perhaps only once or twice I'm alone. The remaining of the 8-9 times, I see young men seriously pumping away. I'm just there to make sure I don't have a paunch. But the young men are there seriously pumping away, looking at the mirrors, making sure that they have a good God body. So I think there's an issue there, unrealistic body images, and that really forms quite a bit of stress on the male minds today. My last point is really about our connectedness via social media and our hyperconnectivity, and I think that represents the steroids, for all the things that Hollywood and Bollywood has really put in place as a society. So whatever you feel with regards to unrealistic body image, that's amplified. Because now the Greek god is not just in Tom Cruise, in the Hollywood stars, but it's right beside you. Your classmates, your colleagues, your mere mortals suddenly become all Thors, and all the Marvel and DC characters. And I feel that, of course, in relation to being hyper connected, there are also other challenges like easy access to explicit materials, addictions, so on and so forth. And I think that all manifests in one very crucial point, which is our mental health, especially amongst the male population in Singapore today, has been really adversely impacted. So I spoke about three things: the disjoint in our concept of what's masculine, consumerism and pop culture, and also social media and hyperconnectivity, and all this having an impact on mental health. See, last year there were about 300, more than 300 suicides that were reported in Singapore, and amongst these suicides, 2/3 were actually male. So I think that's really food for thought, that these three issues that I talk about, I think really deserve our attention, deserve our addressing. So I thank all of you for being here in this conversation today. With that, I will pause for a while. I can go on for hours, but let's not hog the mic too long.
Actually, you just said everything that needs to be said about the men's issue. Thank you for sharing the challenges you face.
Okay, the show's ended, guys.
Maybe let's get to hear one another's thoughts about this. Thank you for setting the tone. SPS. Danny, why don't you go first?
I think, SPS, you're spot on. I think I'll just elaborate one thing that I do feel like the image of men, or actually the expectations of men, are sometimes unrealistic. We are brought up from boys to men, to NS, post-NS, with expectations from everyone. I mean, from family to eventually spouse or friends. Hey, don't worry about it, man. Shake it off, man. You're a man. Do the right thing. And sometimes we don't listen enough. We don't know how to listen. And actually, from the context, and I'm very glad that Glenn said there are a lot of ladies in the group. Ladies, they're obviously here because they care. So, right. So if they care, then they have a brother, they have a father, they have a friend, they have a loved one, someone from school, that is going through some trouble. Then from a approach perspective, I always feel that there needs to be a support system. And for men, we have to encourage men to have a support system, or else they end up in a coffee shop drinking beer with one tear coming down, And I don't think we all want that. We want them to be able to share in a safe space. But a safe space will require a change of mindset. And I think the change of mindset would mean that when they do speak about it, we then say, okay, hey bro, or if you are a guy and a guy, bro, okay, I hear you. Why don't we just, let's just talk about it. Instead of saying, well, not really, well, that's okay, what? Hey, get over it, We have to stop that. I always remember Russell Peters, the comedian, do the right thing, do the right thing, be a man, do the right thing. But sometimes we just have to be able to listen. And actually, a lot of ladies ask me, how do they actually make it more safe for men? Because, like I said, it's about the impression of the, masculinity and how men should be. But I think what's concerning is that if they don't speak out, then you're right. 2/3 of suicides are men. There must be a reason for that. If there's no outlet, whether it's music or friends or somehow some mentors to be able to talk to, then they will end up with being hopeless. So I think I want to emphasize on that. The other thing I want to emphasize is being a 52-year-old. Men in their 50s, especially, I have particular interest on, and I know quite a lot of them. Some in 60s, some 52. And I'm actually starting a group called the Good Bros, and really what it is really to support men at that age, because some of them are going through job transformation, some of them are going through retrenchment, and for me personally, I'm a new father. Not like Keith, I don't have 4 kids. I have 1 kid, and my 1 kid is 2.5 years old. And as a new father at 52, Keith will understand it's tiring. So like SPS, I'm going to the gym more now, just to train up. But I think from that perspective, the role of the father, I think is very important. Fatherhood and how fathers are viewed, how fathers are perceived, how society look at the role of a father a bit differently. Because you see, if the father's role is always been like, okay, I work, I just go to work, I leave it everything nurturing to the wife or the mother, then that's not the right path. That's really not the right path. I think fathers want to be participating. We have to give them a chance. You know the old joke lah. Don't give the father drop the kid. No, those jokes have to be over with. So I would say these are the two things just to elaborate a little bit more. And yeah, so yeah, that's what I think is important for me lah personally. Yeah.
Thanks, Danny. You know how to prevent dropping the kid? Go to the gym. Go down. Yeah,
Right.
I just wanted to say, Danny, you touched on a very important point, and the thing about fathering, I mean, that's very close to me. I work a lot with ex-offenders. I can tell you, in my 20 years behind bars, working counseling, offering programs, I would dare say about 75% of the men in particular who are behind bars have either very poor relationships with their own father or it's just estranged. Yeah, there's a missing
Yes.
father, right? And I wonder if that exacerbates the whole situation. Well, I'm going to talk
Yes.
a little bit about that later on and where that
Yes.
fits with mentoring. Maybe over to Keith, your quick thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm very glad that society has recognized the role of fathers in parenting. And when I look at the parent support group in schools, you'll be surprised to see that the fathers' involvement are a lot more intensified now. In fact, I think it's about 50-50 now, mothers and fathers, which I'm very heartened to see that. Well, when it comes to parenting, I feel that the principle is this, a lot of things are caught more than taught. Therefore, the father's modeling is really, really important. I think gone are the days, and Danny put it rightly. We cannot say that, the father just be the sole breadwinner, bring in the money and leave the nurturing to the mothers. I think that's not the right thinking. And the children really watch us, and sometimes you'll be surprised the kind of words that they use. We didn't teach them, right? That they just picked it up because of the way we interact with people. And that keeps us on our toes, really. How we behave, how we interact with people. Do we say thank you? Do we say please? And more so, recently, we just gave a mobile phone to my daughter, right? She's 9. And obviously, as new to mobile phone, she would be very curious and spend a lot of screen time. And when we try to stop her, then we also ask ourselves, are we modeling the right thing? In the presence of our children, are we there but not there, right? We are there physically, but actually our attention is on our phone. And they're modeling all this, right? And then we wonder, why are they spending so much time on screen time? So I think the children are really good mirrors of our habits and behaviors. So I totally agree with Danny's thoughts on this one. Yeah. Yeah, back to you, Glenn.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, well, if anything, a man is a model, right, for the next generation. I thought maybe we'll just come back to the mental health issues relating to men in particular. Before I pass to SPS again for your comments, I just want to make a slightly somewhat controversial observation. Let's call it an observation, okay? Because this has been like 15, 20 years of my own personal experience. When it comes to, and I'm from the home affairs side, where we talk about youth at risk all the way up to offenders and now ex-offenders. When it comes to sharing their stories, where we're talking about being open and share, right? Even, our past. And ex-offenders, the men in particular, no problem with sharing openly, articles, interviews. Yeah, the women somehow are not so forthcoming, the ladies. Yeah, if you're an ex-offender, a female, chances are they don't want to interview, they don't want to appear online. Yeah. Then we cross over to the mental health space. Yeah, the women are very forthcoming. I mean, they're sharing stories. You can read interviews in the papers, but the men are silent. And I've spoken because I do psychotherapy at my clinic as well. And whenever we ask, hey man, want to share your breakthrough or your past or whatever, they're all silent. No, they don't want. It's almost contralateral, it's opposite. I wonder why this is so. Because we're talking about mental health issues, men's risk levels are much higher, and yet they're not forthcoming. Here we are trying to, create some awareness and opportunity for them to share and talk about it, but they don't. Why? I mean, that's my question. Why? SPS, any thoughts?
Because of societal norms. Because you think that society expects you to be a certain way, right? You have to be macho, to be masculine. You have to kind of switch off your emotions switch if you're a man, right? And I think that's really something that really makes this conversation today so important. And I want to go back to some of the points that Danny and Keith mentioned earlier. I want to start off by responding to Danny, going off in a tangent. You talk about men in their 50s, the good bros and all that. I would push that further to say that actually society needs to shift in terms of how we think about retirement, how men think about post-retirement employment, right? Because it's not something we think about. Both employees, prospective employees, which are seniors and senior men themselves, as well as prospective employers. Employers today don't think of anybody who is perhaps in the mid-50s and beyond as somebody that they want to hire. So I think there's a separate bucket of conversation that we need to have there. The second point that we talk about in terms of how fathers are role models, Keith, I totally hear you when you say that children are all watching us like a hawk and they pick up every language and behavior. So when I'm driving, I'm so conscious because on the roads, in the car, it's so easy for you to just go toot, and then the small guy behind is like, oh, you can say that while you're driving. But I think science also has it, this is maybe some reprieve for Danny, that science has it that the young ones between 0 to 6 years of age, actually they attach themselves more to their moms. So at this age, my son is 4 years old. At this age, if they're not quite, if their primary source of who they love is still their mothers, I think that's well and good because science has proven that 0 to 6, kids naturally tend to, gravitate towards their mothers. But at age 6 onward, the switch flips and the young son starts to look at the father as somebody that I want to attach myself to, somebody that I want to role model. That's my mentor, that's my true north, that's my compass. So I think if you really want to be a good father, we can start at age 6. No, I mean, just start early, right? And I think I want to, really point to another example. Glenn, you talk about the fact that you're in the home affairs space. I'm kind of in that space as well. Recently, I've been in 2 events. I was in Tanah Merah Prison. Of course, I was there for the National Youth Achievement Award presentation. And 2 days before that, I was at the Esplanade. But it was for a boys' home event. And 14 boys actually put up a theatre show, a 1 hour plus show, where they spoke very candidly about their own experience. So as per what Glenn said, no problems sharing their experiences, offending, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to stress the point about the power of families and our fathers. Because of the 14 boys, at the end of the presentation, they were each invited individually to the stage, received their certificate of participation, and then the second photo they take is to take a picture with the family. But there was one particular boy whose family didn't turn up. And you could really see the raw emotions that ensued because the boy simply just broke down because the family was not there for him. And that's one example. The other example of the importance of fatherhood really was based on a testament that was given by one of the boys. And I tried to remember in verbatim what he said. His monologue was that it is 14 years ago since you said you go out to buy milk but never came back. And I wish that you had been there, but I know that time has been lost, and I felt angry at the start, but I no longer feel the anger anymore. But now, I thought he ended off quite nicely by saying that, well, in future, I hope to be a better person. I hope to be somebody who will stick it through with us, with the family, with me, so that you can role model the way, so that you can show me how to be a man. And that is exactly how he put it, in the words of a young 15, 16-year-old. So I think that really shows the power of fatherhood, the power of families, and all our roles in society, And one last comment. I was also, this few weeks thinking about, hey, what sets the difference? What makes me different from, say, the offenders or boys' home residents? Actually, to me, there's no tangible big difference, right? It doesn't mean that I'm more capable. It doesn't mean that I have more, I'm smarter or more intelligent. It just means that perhaps I had a good family to support me through life, especially at the start of life where I need a lot of role modeling. I need a lot of, companionship, mentorship. Yeah.
Thanks for that, SBS. I think, I will say that the role of the father, especially because I'm 52, and I'm running my own business, I think I have a little bit of flexibility in organizing my schedule. And I found it a real joy actually putting my boy to bed, and also actually waking up with him. And I think things will start to change actually for the better, because I think for boys especially, the only one that can really teach you how to be a man, or to be the principles and the core values, is actually the father, more the father, right? As you say, after 6 years old, right? But I think also maybe for Keith, welcome back, Glenn. For Keith, maybe you want to just also talk a little bit about, I guess, the role of a mentor, right? Actually, at the in the 20s, maybe even
Yes,
for
yes.
for men.
Yeah. So I want to thank SBS for sharing that two examples, because really there is a segment in society that don't have the privilege of having good family support structure, maybe absent father. To be very candid, my father himself was incarcerated, and during those years it was really difficult for me and my family. Back then my mom was raising young children, and there were three of us, elderly parents staying with us, and then she had to make ends meet, and then had to pick up a lot of pieces because dad wasn't around, right? Yeah, and through it, I found myself growing up very fast because I was the eldest in the family. I remember on weekends I had to cycle to nearby condominiums to teach swimming, just to make that extra pocket money, and then during school holidays find part-time jobs. All these things helped me mature, but I don't see all this as being marginalized, because number one, I grew up quite quickly, and number two, it further strengthens my belief of mentoring the younger generation. So like what SPS say, from 0 to 6, they are more attached to their mothers, right? But 6 onwards, they are looking for male figures, or rather role models. And I don't think this stops until they I don't think this stops anyway, right? So when they go out, they grow up into teenagers, they go out into the working world, they are always looking out for role models that they want to be. And if we don't step in, then they probably will be lost. They'll be lost, and worst case, they look for figures in like what SPS mentioned, unrealistic role models in Hollywood, Bollywood, right? And that's the disjoint there. Yeah. And right now I'm very involved in youth work, helping youth with parents who are absent, parents who are far away, right? And I can kind of empathize, right? Because I walked that journey. So I just want to put my arms around them and tell them, hey, it will be all right. So just shepherd them along, and just really be there for them, and help them see possibilities. Yeah. So that's my journey.
Oh, thanks, Keith. Yeah. I mean, since Keith was so open and forthcoming and being vulnerable, I hope I can also share a little bit of my vulnerabilities. Just a quick one. During the pandemic 2020, I think SPS, you heard a little bit about this. Me coming from psychology and being a therapist myself, we help people. When the circuit breaker happened, actually, I had a time in my life. I had no problem online, and I'm a home person. But it was during the open, close phase, start, stop, start, stop. That was when it really hit me. I didn't even know it. So the story goes that, I'm in charge of tapaoing food from outside. I went to my favorite hawker center, Newton. Newton has a big center, area, this round like marquee area. And all I could see was this netted orange nets. Remember all the days? And social ambassadors just being there, making sure we're in line and 1 meter apart. Something stirred up in me, and I was really, really agitated. I actually snapped at one of them, like expletives and everything. I tried to find myself, went behind to the toilet area, and I literally broke down. And that was when I realized that I needed help. Yeah, of course, I have my own support. My supervisors, my professors, I did a Zoom. She was in Europe. And I went on my own journey of 9 months for my personal therapy. And that was in 2021. What I realized was that this we call this residual effect. That means it's not really new stuff. Pandemic, a lot of us, those of us who kind of broke down or had mental health issues, we all think it's because of the external environment or something new. But residual effect has got to do with past sentiments. You see a glass of water and it's clear. That's because nothing's shaken around you. But the moment you shake it, right, past residual stuff from your past journey, maybe even past trauma that are undealt with or processed, they start coming back to the surface. And for me, my story, I had a big thing against authority, feeling that my freedom is being engage or remove from me, denying me of my freedom. And so that triggered me a lot. So that brought me to a journey of realizing, hey, even though I thought I've dealt with it, I mean, it's been 20 over years of my own personal therapy and journey. I thought I figured I forgive my father, I've forgiven society, for unfair treatment, injustice. But then I realized I did not forgive myself fully yet. And it required a supervisor. So that's one. And then back in home ground, I had two mentors. I mean, people that I look up to, brothers of mine that I could confide in, and they gave me perspective, insights. And that was when I realized mental health issues relating to men really required that, what Danny was saying, the safety, a safe environment in the form of this one-on-one small group relationships with fellow men, fellow brothers, fellow father figures. And I felt safe enough. And I really appreciated the perspectives given, the journeying, the walking alongside with me. It took me about 9 months to a year before I was ready to even share that, with people. And I do want to encourage, especially listeners here, whether on live stream or on Zoom, that you don't need a lot of people. You just need a few good men, just one or two, and that's why I believe so much in mentoring. And I, of course, sit on the National Mentoring SG committee, trying to really, promote this. Yeah. I thought I just wanted to share that part.
Yeah, perfect, Glenn. I mean, actually, just to add a little bit, I think men, when we are young, the go-to when we have trouble with our friends, maybe NS or after NS, the first thing they'll say, let's go party, let's just forget about, let's go drink, I think that in itself is actually something we are trying to escape from the actual talking about it, right? So if we actually say to each other, say, let's talk about it, let's not drink alcohol, let's not do anything, just focus and be present. I think it's so hard sometimes for men because we never really learn to be present with our friends, right? And I think maybe right about now, Glenn, would you like to have the audience maybe post some of their thoughts, and some questions? Maybe that's what I would like you guys to do. And it's so nice to see 79 people join us. It's amazing. And we were expecting 50, but hey, 79 is expected. I was hoping for 80 lah. Then but this is wonderful. And but yeah, please post something in your chat. It's a safe space. Don't worry. And if you have any questions, or if you think maybe your views about men's mental health, and I particularly interested in the men's group already existing. There are really some trying to do good, to good projects, and then like you say, safe spaces, counseling, support systems, right? And maybe you can just put in the chat group, and then maybe Glenn and I could also have a look and then bring it up to the panel. But yeah.
Yeah, feel free to use the chat box, whether it's questions or comments, and maybe we can even open up to one or two, especially those from the other men's groups, to just share some of your thoughts. And after all, we're having a conversation, much needed conversation about men, by men, hopefully by men, more so by men, because we don't talk, right? Talking about science, SBS, you heard about this stat about who talks more?
Let me guess.
Make a calculator guess. How many words do we speak in a day? I mean, let's start with the ladies. Okay, the women. 60,000 words. Make a guess how many words a man speaks in a day.
1/6 of that.
At least half. Like 30,000 words a day. And mind you, most of it is used up during the day at work. So by the time we come back home, our word bank very little. So when our spouses ask, how was your day? I expect one word answer, okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, we've got someone, Christine. Danny, you want to do us the honors of okay.
Oh, she's just saying
thanks,
that.
Wanted,
she's saying that wanted.
This. It's subjective, depends who you marry.
It also depends if it's a trick question. Also, but appreciate the openness of the speaker. I thank you very much. I think it's important. I think this is the part where mentoring comes into play. I think we set example. I mean, myself, I'm a business owner. I'm also a musician. He, of course, SBS is here and Glenn. We are setting an example of being able to talk about our own personal journey. That really, really helps, to be honest with you, because role models can humble themselves and be vulnerable, and therefore that leads to other people saying, "Oh wow, I can share too. So I think that really is what where to find and join men's group. Okay, well, I mean, maybe we could join the AOL Facebook group, or and keep in touch with us. We are of course trying to get to know more of the men's group. I think there is a need to perhaps do a collective networking and see who's doing what and how we can all help each other and work towards a common goal. Oh well, we have Ghazali. Ghazali is actually a friend of mine, actually, SG Man. I like to just say, thanks for joining us, Ghazali. He's actually packing his bag to go overseas, but I'm very, very glad he actually can join us. There's also Brothers Circles. I think there's a few groups here. SG Man. There's also Brothers Circle. Bros Without Woes. I say that. I have to be very careful when I say that. Bros Without Woes. And
Yeah.
and of course, John Dykes is also a friend of mine. He's used to be the ESPN presenter, my very good friend, sports presenter with ESPN in English League
okay.
football.
Wow,
And he's
you-
also, and interestingly, John is a young person at the age of 60. So from his perspective, is a man of the 68-year-old age. And I think it's also important to look at that, and helps the junior seniors, if you call them, to adapt, right?
Yeah.
I think I just want to just bring up what he said. Sports can be a fabulous metaphor for life. And in elite sports, there's so many cases of successful men who feel lonely, break down, and they don't have a safe space or network to drop their guard and show vulnerability, which is what we're talking about. One of the key issues that must be addressed is everyday life as in the sporting world.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
over to you.
there's Jason Lim, yeah, our good friend.
Jason, of course, Jason's here.
Yeah. Actually, why don't we do this, Danny? We'll just call on one or two of them to unmute themselves and just share their thoughts about it. Firstly, maybe I'll like to call on Ryan. I see Ryan here. Ryan is one of my guys as well. Ryan, you there? Maybe you can unmute yourself. And Ryan is a young chap, young guy, entering the workforce, and maybe we'd like to hear, how does a young man feel? I mean, obviously in society, Singapore in particular, and expectations on him maybe as a young man, right?
Yeah, but thanks, Glenn, for calling me, and good morning to all the esteemed panelists here. Yeah, so yes, I'm Ryan. I'm a youth coach in Singapore, and I think what I noticed among the young ones is that there's a lot of focus on the social media aspect, like trying to project the best image of themselves, just trying to look good. And then, of course, underneath, you see that there's a lot of ranting and a lot of a different side to them. Yeah, because they're really stressed out in the background trying to make things work. So there's this very huge disconnect, and I'm pretty honestly sick and tired of it. I want to say, how can we resolve this problem before it gets worse? And then the government have to spend more resources to help these young men in the future. So if we start from young, I believe that's where we can make the most impact. Yeah.
That's so true, right? That's so true. You start from young. I think that's the important part. Even from education, right? I mean, to be able to let them share, and I think that's so true. Yeah. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks,
Ryan, don't mind me asking you. So, Ryan, by the way, is 30 years old. Yeah, I know he looks like he's school going, but I don't know how he maintains his youth. But 30 years old, a lot of transitionary, steps. How do you, what are you looking for in terms of maybe resources or support to help you as you transit?
Yeah, I think resources wise would be how to.
Yeah, because government is here, listening.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I would say I think more avenues for us to really share how we think beyond the political correctness. Because I mean, personally speaking, I find that people are scared to make mistakes, to say how they really feel. Right? And it's only when in these very closed door conversations that all the true feelings really come up. Yeah. And then outside in the public image is all like, oh, things are okay lah, Like men would like to say, oh, things are okay, everything is fine. Then all the math is really. Yeah, but there's so much deep inside, and we have to dig in if we really want to solve the crisis.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any quick thoughts from government? SPS. And Jason Lim, I would like you to go next. Okay, Jason Lim. So stand by. Yeah, SPS.
Yeah, I think I hear you loud and clear. I think I'm totally in sync with you with regards to how we are so often just wanting to project the best parts of our life, but oftentimes we know that's just a facade. And there's so many underlying issues that we are not addressing, we're not having these conversations, which is why, earlier at the start, in my opening kind of spiel, I said that this is such a wonderful conversation to have today. But I also want to make a pitch and also do a shout out to a particular group, and that is the middling group. I call them the invisible average. So for instance, if you are, in school, there are the good students and the not so good students, but there's also the broad 70-60% of the average student. But oftentimes, attention is often given by the teachers, the principals on the best students, the top 10% maybe, and also the bottom 10%. But the middle 80-70% sort of becomes invisible. And if you transpose that to life, right? Oh, if I'm not from a, say, completely broken family, if I face stress in life, but not to the extent of having to face or deal with a mental health condition, then a lot of times actually consciously tell themselves, oh, then my problems don't exist. Then my problems don't matter. I think there needs to be also an addressing of that particular large group of people, because we are just dissociating from that part of ourselves, dissociating from those feelings in our lives that are also equally valid and cogent, So I just want to call out to this group because I myself in school, I was probably in the broad 70-80%. I felt invisible because no need love from the teachers. I don't want that as well. But you kind of by and by there's a chance that you will feel that you might feel that actually my problems shouldn't need to be there in the first place. But that's a misplaced feeling. That's a point that I want to address. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Glenn, you're gonna have Jason come on, but there's some. Thank you guys for putting on the chat all these wonderful questions or even some comments. But after that, maybe we can have John Dyke say a few things because of from a perspective of the junior, senior. But maybe you want Jason? Are you still there?
Yeah, Jason, if you're still here. Yeah.
Hi, Danny. Hi, Glenn. Hi, Keith.
Hi, Jason.
And
Hi.
SPF.
Hi, Jason.
So today, so on vacation mode. Still on.
But that's what men do.
That's what men do. We need to have rest as well, right? Right.
Yeah.
Work hard, rest hard, play hard also. Yeah. So what?
Your comments, maybe your thoughts on what was discussed so far.
In especially in the Asian culture, right? Like we are so conservative, and like we talk about like shame is such a prevalent thing for us, especially I guess compared to the West, right? I think there's a lot of conversations in the West about like masculinity and how like men we feel like we don't match up to certain standards, right? I think maybe especially for us in Asia, like it's like this thing called shame, Can you imagine your mom just like shame, or like if you do something like I don't know, like there's this thing like maybe it's my own childhood drama, but I think we all get it. I think for us men, it's like we have this stoic Asian father who's like silent, who is like hardworking, and like that is our role model. And while it's not a bad thing, I guess, to be hardworking and to be stoic, to keep your emotions in check, I think it's a good thing. Not to be reactive, But I think there is a conversation that needs to be had about how do we process our emotions, and I think to hold those conversations in like safe spaces, and that's why I just want to say thank you so much for having this conversation, for all of you, to starting these conversations and to bring Singapore to a healthier space for men, safer space for men. Yeah, so thank you for that.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for joining us. I mean, I have a small little WhatsApp group chat with Jason and a few other guys, really talking about this over the last 2 months. So there is active groups out there. I think maybe my suggestion to Glenn is that we should also meet in person at some point. I think there are good groups out there with or without the government's involvement, to be honest with you, because this could be also organic. It's all for a purpose of mentoring, and then of course we also share maybe with government about how they can support it. But it's all part of, I think, all of us coming together, and safe spaces and communication is so important. Yeah. But thanks, Jason. Thank you so much. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
Can we have John Dykes, because I think mindful of time.
Yes.
But I think John's can you unmute John, because I think his perspective is perhaps a little bit different from someone who is a very young 60-year-old. And I think I'd like to hear a little bit more of that, because I think a a lot of the men in the 60s, and in the 60s, 50s and 60s actually, the pressure of job transformation, the pressure of AI, the pressure of how the industry is changing has also impacted on them. Hey, John.
Hey, I'm with you guys. Hi, Danny. Good to see you. Hi, guys. Fantastic initiative. I don't know if you want to see me on screen, but I've seen already too many times, I suspect. But I'm here. I'm in Singapore. A lot of people don't realize that, but I'm actually Singaporean. But Danny keeps talking about me as a young 60-odd. I don't feel particularly young 60 today because I was out celebrating my 60th last night with a bunch of guys. But it's great to be up and about and talking to you. And, you know, it's such an important topic because I think a lot of people might not realize this, but having spent so much long working in sports TV around the world, I do a lot of work now in speaking and training. And one of the things I find myself talking about more than anything is explaining this particular issue about men. And I'll tell you, and he won't be unhappy with me mentioning it, but from people like Ryan Giggs, for example, the former Manchester United star down the years, I discovered during my working career by working with these guys that sometimes they would turn around to me and confide and say, you know, all I want to be treated like is a normal person. And what's happened, I found in the world of elite level sport and in much of society that I moved in, was that there were perceptions about people, men working in sport in particular, that they had money, they had success, they had fame and fortune, and it made them very inaccessible and very, very lonely. So at that elite sports level, I discovered it. And then I realized that that applied to everyday life. And of course, I've lived in Asia all my adult life, so I'm fully aware of the stoicism and the silence and the cultural mores that exist that maybe stop people from speaking. But what I've also discovered is that from elite level sport, I found that there's this horrifying and terrifying drop-off when their career comes to an end. And this is something that's so relevant to all of us. I mean, I've reinvented myself and pivoted in my career. As you get older, you address your purpose in life, your value, you have financial stresses or whatever else it may be. But the sportsmen very often just fall off a cliff. Suddenly they've lost the support network, the structure they had all of their lives. They've lost the banter, the dressing room, the crack, the people that knew them, and they have no skills. And suddenly they cut adrift. And there's a tremendous amount of loneliness and depression in that particular part of society. But the more I think about it, that extends to all of us. Sport is genuinely a metaphor for real life. The sporting examples are fantastic, but they're not unrelatable. Any women listening, I know it's great that we've got women on the group here. When I speak to audiences these days, as I do in Singapore, I always address the so-called elephant in the room and say, hey, I'm not just here to tell you a story about how cool it was that I was on stage at MBS with David Beckham a couple of weeks ago. I'm here to actually share something with you that I learned from him that transformed how I exist and how all of us can live our lives. So sports lessons are great. And one thing I've learned is that men really need help. And the answer is networking. I've been working with an Australian organization called the Good Blokes Society. And as you can imagine, good Aussie, bluff, masculine, macho, sporty guys. And you know what they do when they get together? They put an arm around their shoulders and say, how are you doing, mate? And sometimes the answer is, I'm not doing great. I need a little bit of help. And they share and they do what they can for people. So anyway, that's what I'm here to share, that there is such a need for this. And in particular here in Singapore, I think it's a wonderful initiative. So anything I can do to help, guys, let me know.
Wow, thank you so much, John. You put so much things into a nutshell, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Wow, man.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we need that. Wow. I wonder, Keith, you could respond to that with your own thoughts. But at this point in time, I thought maybe as a last commentator, maybe someone, a lady, female, could come on as well. And I would like
that'd be
to
good.
ask, Phoenicia, because she asked a question. Yeah, Phoenicia, do stand by, team. Yeah, Keith, could you say something?
Phoenicia, is there a question?
No. I mean, just your response to what John has shared and the need for a safety group, a safe group, you know.
Yeah.
And networking, I think it's talking about
Networking,
networking.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times we have heard of the term safe space, right? And we wonder, where do we find this safe space? Is it a physical place that we can go and feel safe? But I think a safe space is created through meaningful and genuine relationship. And that's the foundation of mentoring, right? Mentoring is not like teaching or sports coaching in that sense, because mentoring really requires a commitment of both sides to enter a relationship. And sometimes in a mentoring session, we don't talk about the topic, we just talk about life, right? And just really spend quality time getting to know each other, building that trust so that you know, whatever you say, you're not being judged, whatever you're going through, it's okay to not be okay. Yeah, so I think to create that safe space, and a lot of times when youth or young people reach out for mentor, they ask, where can I find mentor? And my usual response to them is this. the heart of the issue is actually the issue of the heart. The heart of the matter is the matter of the heart, right? So when you're looking out for a mentor, we also want to ask ourselves, what are we looking for in a mentor and what area do we want to be mentored in? And then we keep our eyes open in that particular field. And you can have multiple mentors to coach you in different areas. Yeah, but I think the basis of that is we want to be genuine and build that relationship so that we can create the atmosphere of safe space. And I think that's important.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. Thanks, Keith. I'm mindful of time as well. It's already like slightly past 11, and our guest of honor has to take his leave. He's got a whole day packed for men's duties. And SBS, any last words for us before you leave?
Just a quick response to what John had to say. I think that was really beautifully and succinctly, summarized, and you've really captured the essence of what we are trying to say. So, but I will take the risk of offending some football fans here, and I'll just say this, that we never have to walk alone.
Hey!
I don't think anybody is taking offense to that.
I'm not.
We're on the same team.
Yeah, we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great, man. That's great.
SBS, thank you.
You will never walk alone. I don't have that love.
That will be our tagline. Yeah, SBS, thank you so much. I know you have to leave for other things.
Yes.
And we'll promise to send you the replay of this, edited, help us to promote this. And obviously, this is not the last. We're going to gather a groundswell, maybe even form a alliance of sorts. And we hope to have you on board.
For sure, coming in.
As well. Yeah. Thank you so much, ladies and gents. Can we just?
By the way, I've just added SBS on my LinkedIn. I'll keep so we keep in touch.
Felicia, our first lady, female guest to make a
Hey,
on
good morning,
Future Man.
everyone. Yeah.
Hi. You were asking a question earlier on, and we did not kind of address. Can you ask that live here?
So I was asking, as a man, what are the practical ways can the ladies support them to allow them to feel safe enough to be vulnerable? Because it's actually very hard to break down that wall, right? The social expectation of a man to be cool and to just put up a good front and stuff. So I'm just wondering how, as a person, whether to our brothers or people around us who are men, to be able to be safe enough to be vulnerable to speak out their needs or whatever.
Let's hear from the rest of the panelists. Yeah, Danny, Keith.
I think as I said earlier, it's about changing mindsets, right? I think one of the things that I always talk to John, and I'm so glad he's here. We are going to start a little project together, and actually it comes down to this communication, right? I mean, how do we provide a safe space for them? It requires a bit of training, because you see, we have cultural norms. We are so used to certain ways of talking, listening. And I think it's about time we also learn to deal with this more carefully, and also with a little bit of training and mentoring. I think we can all sort of learn to be better listeners. Because at the end of the day, men also have to step up in a way, to be able to show vulnerability, but also, how do I put it? Make it a norm to be able to share with their friends. I think the collective support group, right? In my opinion, it has to start with the male friends. But of course, you have sisters, you have wives, you have daughters, you have mothers. I mean, it's a bit more complicated. But if they can start talking to their guy friends first, I think that's where they start to be more open. And I think learn to communicate and express without getting angry, passive aggressive. So it's really about being calm and being able to communicate without coming off as perhaps a little bit, oh my God, that's too much, that's too intense, right? So I think people, you can't blame them if you are coming too intense. They're gonna say, wow, this is just too much, man. But that's why I think there's a change of mindsets. And then I think with the networking, we have groups that can encourage men to get together and network and talk. And then maybe thirdly, if they are willing to do some workshops about communication, that helps actually. Like like Ben say, right? We are only 1/3 of what women are in terms of talking. We have to bring it up to 2/3 maybe, or half at least. So it requires a bit of encouragement, for sure, encouragement, respect. I think a lot of men talk about respect. I mean, there's a mutual respect. Our men always, the word respect is very They are very particular, you know. And I think we have to talk about those things. It's uncomfortable to talk about it, but we have to, right? And then once we deal with it, we have a better understanding. Then we talk about the third thing, which is a little bit of training, a little bit of mentoring. I think that's the steps to take. Yeah.
Yeah. Keith, you got any direct answers to that question, which is how would a female, what can a female do to help us?
Yeah, so you know when men returns from work, and when the spouse or the wife asks them, how was your day? That's really a very deep and complicated question to ask. Because my day started off not bad, you know, I had good conversations, I probably closed a deal, but then there were some complaints, and then I met some issues, I encountered some obstacle. So all this experience of my day put together, I managed to squeeze out one answer, and the answer is called okay. So when the wife asks me, how's my day? And all these things goes on in my mind, and I can manage to utter the word okay. All right. So it's not that men don't want to talk, but you know, the worst thing that can happen is when I step home, right? The first thing that my wife would say, do you know what your son did today? Oh, suddenly become my son, right? Then I know what's coming already. So I think, I mean, it sounds funny, right? But what I'm trying to drive at is that sometimes when men comes back from work or whatever, they just need a little bit of time to decompress, and we are not people who, I mean, men generally don't have a lot of words to say, or probably use our quota at work with, right? So that's why we squeeze out okay, not bad. So I think when they decompress, and we want to find the right time to engage, to find the right time to engage. So
that's a great answer, Keith. Sometimes you wonder, men, when we are out there, you know, we are fighting the world, we are fighting the boss, we are fighting the clients, you know. When you go back home, I guess we all want to, it's not just men, I think women too, but we all want to find peace. And even before we talk about the issues, right, then you can't find peace. So I think peace is important. Respect is important. And this is another show, you know, this is another 1 hour show. But I think that's the tidbit of it.
Yeah,
we have to do it again. Glenn have to do another one more.
Yeah. You know, I'm just looking at the chat box, guys. Alan Wong just said, the last time I showed my vulnerability to my partner, the response I got nearly made me go skydive. I mean, you know, it's very easy to say here in public that, I need to respect, need to give us some space. But then, you know, when there's real issues, when does a man deal with those issues? I mean, if at home you can't even do it, then when is the right time, right? And I'm sure I speak for the ladies. They're flustered. They're not, when do I talk to you about problems? Or when do we address, you know, some outstanding matters? Wow. Yeah.
I think the comments are coming in about, I think what we just talked about, you know, how if men's wives also career women. I know it's a very tricky question because if the wife is also going through fighting wars out there, I mean, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I try to encourage my friends to do is to maybe tell your spouse, if you're communicating relatively well, is to tell them, say, you know what, honey, I'm really only 50% right now.
Yeah.
Maybe when you say things like this, you know, I'm really like, I'm a little bit tired. I'm 50%. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a few minutes. I'm gonna come back to you. I think that's all it is, really communication.
That's
right?
communication, guys. That's communication 101.
Then the wife will say, "Oh, okay. I will make a tea.
The wife gets it, right? Tea." So
I think
it's two ways,
about
Danny. It works both ways also, right? Same for the ladies.
For sure.
Okay, like you said, well, it's 11:15 already. Like you said, I think
what a conversation.
You know what we should do? We should just continue this conversation on another platform. And guys, thanks for registering and all that. We've got all your emails, you're in our database. We'll send you out another podcast event pretty soon, maybe early in the next year. But I do want to kind of wrap this part up for finish here as well, because I've been talking about science, right? I've been working at a psychological level with both men and women. And there are some key bias statements out there. And again, this is just gender stereotypes, right? Women tend to bond and share and talk with their hearts. Yeah, you can see them at coffee houses, Starbucks, 3 hours, 4 hours, no problem. Yeah, you rarely see that of men, right? The bros sitting down 4 or 5 hours, maybe over soccer and beer maybe, yes, but not like that. So I always say that while ladies bond with their hearts, men need to bond over maybe with their hands. Something to do with soccer, maybe activities, and skydiving, maybe, you know, but whatever it is, that part kind of breaks down the walls a little bit, because hey, we are what we call goal-oriented, activity-based kind of creatures, and so that kind of lowers the barrier, and then things start coming out. Vulnerability starts to come out. I guess no, a bit difficult when we just sit down with a coffee and say, okay, share what's on your mind and what's the problem. It sounds like counseling, Yeah. So I just wanted to leave that thought. Thanks, Phoenicia. Please join us
thanks for the
Thank
sharing.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, quick one. So each one of us has 30 seconds just to round things up. Your final kind of statement or thought for the day. Keith.
Please.
Yeah, so since I'm a mentoring advocate, I just want to say this. It's one thing for the mentor to be the mentee to believe in the mentor. That's why they come to you, right? But it's a whole new idea for you to believe in your mentee, because that's empowering. All right. So if you are coaching someone, you are mentoring someone, believe in that person. It makes a world of difference. Yeah.
Nice one. Okay, Danny.
Yeah. I think, like we talk about networking, I think that really is the crux of it for me. We need to network more together, good men, like what Glenn says, true. A few good men and also more good men, and really just like-minded men who are concerned about other men. I mean, we do mentoring, like Keith said about mentoring, is about care. You're caring for someone.
Yeah,
You're sitting down and listening to him, and I think from that basis we need to do the networking, as what John, my friend John Dykes have said. So please hook me up on LinkedIn. I already added Keith. I already added SBF. Glenn is always there. So hook me up on LinkedIn, and I think maybe we have to do another one of this. I will discuss with Glenn and find a way. Maybe we could do it in person. But yes, keep in touch, and let's continue the conversation, and let's see if there's a way of getting everybody together and like-minded people together, that we can actually be strong in numbers also, not just in terms of like-minded, but also stronger in numbers.
That's right.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Danny. And in the spirit of that whole network and doing things not alone, I think we also shouldn't do this podcast alone. I mean, if there's any men's group out there, some of which I am so glad to meet today, let's form a consortium. Let's build an alliance together. I mean, the more men, the better, so to speak. My parting thoughts is this. I mean, coming from both mentoring and mental health perspective, as men, there are expectations, there are demands. Sure, we have responsibilities, but we can't give what we don't have. Men, we can't give what we don't have, and therefore we need to surround ourselves with supply. I know we're always kind of giving like demand, but who's going to pour into our cup, right? Us men, we have to co-supply to each other. So I think this is important. Yeah. All right. So thanks for staying and investing your time on this weekend, Saturday morning, future men. So after this conversation, I do have this, I think there's a shift in my mindset that the future of men is not too bad after all. It's pretty bright. Yeah, if we continue to do this. Yeah, and with
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.